and they should not be used to pay pending negotiation or continuation. That was the 1 billion. But the amounts we were able to generate from the debt service were 7 billion to the President. They continued to be effective. Unfortunately, some were not released because of the President's power to disperse or not to disperse. But that is beside the point. The point is, they were not people.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I note that the 12.8 billion is only 4% of the President's budget for debt service and interest payments of 310 billion. The reason why I asked for enumeration of these items is just to be comfortable that we're not being given false hopes here, that this is going to be a sustainable reduction. Because normally, since the debt service is quite a big amount, a big lump sum amount, it is one of the obvious targets for adjustments in order to provide for additional budget for the other departments. So I note the manifestation of our former Chairman of the Committee on Appropriations, and that's good. I hope that this is something that will also be sustained and not be beaten. Thank you.
And if I may add to the discussion, as an input, I think it's even probably proper and wise for us to cut the debt service because as you have noticed, the peso is appreciating against the dollar, and from January to now, the peso has appreciated by 4%. If you calculate 4% against our debt service, that's almost 50 million savings we're going to effect. And therefore, it's not unreasonable to effect a cut on the debt service because really, our economic managers always overestimate the debt service. They always pay it on the more optimistic side rather than, I don't want to say realistic, rather than pessimistic. So there is, I think, this for next year, more reason for the cut, and as Edson said, the President may have vetoed some participation commission, but the appropriations should never vetoed. So it just makes a good thing.
Yes, well, if that is going to be the projection, because I remember that for 2010, I think the projection for the exchange rate is about 47 to 48. It's now about 45. The last report I got was around 45, maybe 46. But this is 2009. So for 2010, I don't know what the economic managers are projecting, whether they've amended their projection. If it is going to be 45, then automatically we will have savings which can be transferred to the other departments. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, on that note. I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, my concern, Mr. Chairman, Chairman, the Senate, is also in addition to the concern raised already by the distinguished colleague of Iloilo, our majority floor leader, our defensor, and that of Tony Cireles. But this is worse. In some cases, our colleagues' concern is that even there was already SARO issued, but it's really embarrassing, Mr. Chairman, that sometimes it's being recalled back. So the power of the courts is no longer, yes, this happens even to me in my district. The SARO has been issued, but for some reason, the budget will call us that the SARO was recalled without explaining any reason at all. So I would like to address this problem to the small committee to really avoid this situation, because then the power of the courts is no longer in the House. It's all being overruled by somebody else, which we don't know who. And this is really embarrassing. In the case of Congressman Defensor, the SARO certification they have bid it. But in our case, SARO has been issued, bid it already, only to be recalled back. be overruled by somebody which we don't know. So I hope this should also be raising a concern in this small committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, before you respond to your colleagues, concern, let me just recognize your Senator Pilipinano, who have considerably improved the landscape on the side of the Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
The Chair appreciates the concern of the gentleman from Samar, Northern Samar, and certainly it will be a concern that the small group will look into. So, Honorable Vito's Magsaysay is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In behalf of the Committee on Energy, the Department of Energy, which I defend, I would just like to also appeal to both chairmen to please request the DBM to finally release the 200 billion congressional insertion for CTO electrification, which will benefit most congressmen who need CTO electrification. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may be allowed to take off from the previous statements of our distinguished colleague, the Honorable Salinas, he mentioned about line items. So we are not referring to congressional initiatives, but we are referring to DPWH infrastructure line item projects under the General Appropriations Act, wherein instructions for bidding have been carried out, but then we go through the tedious process of literally begging for our saros. And this takes away much of our time, which is better spent on legislation. We cannot attend committee hearings, we cannot attend other meetings in Congress simply because we have to line up. We have to queue in the department, and sometimes we can't even talk, we can't even see the DPWH secretary and the DBM secretary. My point, Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, is the fact that we are adding more or less 4.4 billion lump sum amount to the Office of the Secretary of the Department of Public Works and Highways. And I don't know where will this be spent. I don't know which projects will be given priority. But line infrastructure projects, let's say for instance, if they give you an appropriation of 20 million for a bridge, and then they release 11 million, it's not only traffic accident, but the project is seemingly useless because the bridge remains unfinished. And if there is really no money and that's the cause of the delay of the release, then we accept it. But going through the tedious process of literally begging for saros, that's the meaning and taking away much of our time, which should be spent actually on legislation.